Buying plane tickets can be exhausting. Many of us spend hours on the internet researching flight deals, trying to figure out an airfare pricing system that seems random.
Have you ever been on a plane, looked around and wondered how much everyone else paid for their ticket? It's almost certain that the person next to you, the family across the aisle, and the business traveler a few rows up all paid different amounts, sometimes wildly different amounts.
Fees appear to fluctuate without reason, and longer flights aren't always more expensive than shorter ones.
How is it possible that for the exact same flight, the exact same seat category, prices can vary by hundreds, even thousands of dollars? It seems illogical, maybe even unfair.
Airlines argue that overbooking is a way for them to provide a long-term sustainable service in a very competitive industry. It helps them weather a number of variables that can affect their profit margins.
But there's a complex, fascinating system at play, and it's less about the cost of the flight itself and more about, well, you. Let's dive into a common head-scratcher. Imagine you want to fly from Chicago to London. You search for a round trip leaving on a Monday and returning 2 weeks later. The price comes back at, say, $700. That seems reasonable, but then perhaps your return plans are uncertain. You decide to just book the one-way flight from Chicago to London on that same Monday. Logically, you might expect it to cost around half the round-trip price, maybe $350, perhaps a bit more for the flexibility, but often the price you see is dramatically higher. Maybe $1,200, $1,500, or even more. It can cost significantly more to fly one direction than to fly both ways. How does that make any sense? You're taking up one seat on one flight. Why would the airline charge you less if you promise to take up another seat on a return flight later? To understand this, we need to discard a common assumption that airline ticket prices are primarily based on the cost of operating the flight. Yes, airlines have huge costs. The multi-million-dollar aircraft itself, fuel, a massive and volatile expense, maintenance, crew salaries, airport landing fees, navigation charges, catering, insurance. The list goes on. But pricing isn't a simple calculation of total cost divided by number of seats, plus profit margin. If it were, prices would be much more stable and predictable. Instead, airlines operate in a world of high fixed costs and what economists call a perishable inventory. Once that plane door closes and the aircraft pushes back from the gate, every empty seat represents lost potential revenue that can never be recovered for that specific flight. The cost of carrying one extra passenger is relatively small. A little extra fuel burn due to weight, maybe a meal and drink. The main cost, the plane, the crew, the fuel to get from A to B are incurred whether the plane is full or half empty. So the airline's primary goal isn't just to cover costs, it's to maximize the revenue generated from each individual flight. This practice has a name: yield management or revenue management. Think of it like this: the airline isn't just selling a seat, it's selling transportation between 2 points at a specific time, and they try to sell each unit of that transportation for the highest price someone is willing to pay for it. The key here is willing to pay. Airlines know that different people fly for different reasons and have vastly different sensitivities to price. This is where market segmentation comes in. Broadly speaking, airlines divide passengers into two main categories: leisure travelers and business travelers. Leisure travelers, people going on vacation, visiting family, exploring, are typically very price sensitive. They often plan trips well in advance, are flexible with their travel dates, maybe flying mid-week instead of on a weekend, and will shop around extensively for the best deal. A difference of $50 or $100 can easily sway their decision. If the price is too high, they might choose a different destination, travel by car or train, or simply not travel at all. Business travelers, on the other hand, often have different priorities. They might need to attend a meeting on short notice, fly to a specific city on a specific day, and return quickly. Their schedules are often inflexible. Crucially, the company is usually paying for the ticket, not the individual. This makes them far less sensitive to the price. Speed, convenience, and schedule reliability are often more important than getting the absolute lowest fare. If they need to be in London for a Tuesday morning meeting, they need to be there. Airlines desperately want to capture both types of travelers, but they want to charge them different prices. They want to offer fares low enough to attract the price-sensitive leisure traveler, but also capture the maximum possible revenue from the less price-sensitive business traveler. How do they do this when everyone is technically buying a seat on the same plane? They use a sophisticated system of fare rules and booking classes. You've probably seen different fare types when booking: basic economy, main cabin, economy plus, etc. These are often called fare brands or service classes. But underneath these, invisible to most passengers, lies a much more granular system. Booking classes, often represented by single letters of the alphabet: YBM, HKL, UT, XN, QSV, WG, and so on for economy, with different letters for premium economy, business, and first class. Within, say, the economy cabin, there might be 10 or more different booking classes available for the exact same physical seat. Each letter corresponds to a different price point and, crucially, a different set of rules. The cheapest booking classes, like G, K, or L, might have very restrictive rules. They must be purchased far in advance, they might be non-refundable and non-changeable, require a minimum stay, or forbid one-way journeys. The most expensive economy booking classes, like Y or B, are often fully flexible, refundable, changeable with no fee, no minimum stay required, and available for one-way purchase. Airlines allocate a certain number of seats to each booking class on every flight. They might release only a handful of seats in the cheapest classes months in advance. Once those sell out, the next cheapest class becomes available, and so on. This is why prices tend to rise as the departure date gets closer. The cheap buckets sell out first. Now let's revisit that Chicago to London one-way ticket puzzle. Why is it so expensive? Because airlines often associate one-way international travel, especially booked closer to the date, with business travelers who need flexibility and whose companies will pay the premium. The airline system assumes someone buying just one leg might be a consultant moving to the next project, or someone whose return plans are genuinely open-ended, situations more common in business travel. To capture this perceived lower price sensitivity, they often restrict the cheapest booking classes to round-trip purchases only, or round trips that meet certain conditions, forcing one-way bookers into the expensive, flexible Y or B fares. The round-trip ticket, especially one booked in advance with a Saturday night stay, signals leisure traveler to the airline's system. The Saturday night stay rule was a classic differentiator. Business travelers typically want to be home for the weekend, while leisure travelers often stay over a weekend. By requiring a Saturday night stay for the cheapest fares, airlines could effectively filter out many business travelers. While this rule is less rigid than it once was, the principle remains. Fare rules are designed to make it difficult or impossible for less price-sensitive travelers, mainly business, to qualify for the fares aimed at more price-sensitive travelers, mainly leisure. Other common rules used for segmentation include advance purchase requirements. Cheaper tickets often need to be booked 7, 14, 21 days, or even further in advance, targeting leisure planners. Last-minute bookings usually fall into higher fare buckets. This is why the old concept of last-minute deals is largely a myth for flights today. Booking late is almost always more expensive. Minimum, maximum stay, requiring a stay of a certain duration, e.g. at least 3 days or no more than a month, helps target specific types of trips. Flexibility. As mentioned, paying for the ability to change or cancel your flight usually means buying a much more expensive booking class. Basic economy fares often come with no changes, no seat selection, and sometimes even restrictions on carry-on baggage, stripping away features to offer the lowest possible headline price. Day of week, time of day, flights on Tuesdays and Wednesdays or red-eyes are often cheaper than peak Monday morning or Friday afternoon flights, which are popular with business travelers. All of this is managed by complex revenue management systems, RMS. These are sophisticated software platforms using algorithms that constantly monitor bookings, historical demand data, competitor pricing, seasonality, special events like holidays or conventions, and even macroeconomic factors. Based on this analysis, the system dynamically adjusts the number of seats available in each booking class on every single flight, sometimes minute by minute, If a flight is selling faster than expected, the system might close off the cheaper booking classes earlier to save the remaining seats for anticipated late booking, high-yield passengers. If sales are slow, it might open up more cheap seats to stimulate demand. It's a constant automated balancing act, trying to predict demand and maximize revenue for every departure. Think of it like a highly complex, high-stakes game of Tetris, but with airline seats and billions of dollars. The rise of low-cost carriers, LCCs like Southwest, Ryanair, and EasyJet has further complicated the picture. Their business models often rely on simpler fare structures, point-to-point routes, charging extra for everything, checked bags, seat selection, drinks, called ancillary revenue, and relentlessly driving down operating costs. This intense competition, especially on popular leisure routes, think London to Malaga or within the US, forces legacy carriers to compete on price, often by offering their own stripped-down basic economy fares and matching LCC prices, further segmenting the market. On routes with little competition, however, perhaps a niche international destination served by only one or two carriers, airlines face less pressure. They might have a near monopoly or duopoly. In these cases, even leisure travelers might find prices stubbornly high simply because the airline knows passengers have few alternatives. So can you, the average traveler, beat this system? Not really beat it in the sense of tricking it, but you can certainly use an understanding of how it works to find better fares. Flexibility is key. Being flexible with your travel dates by even a day or two, or considering nearby airports, can sometimes unlock significant savings if it allows you to access cheaper booking classes or avoid peak demand periods. Book in advance, but not too far. There's often a sweet spot. Booking extremely far out, say 11 months, might not always yield the lowest price, as airlines might not have released their cheapest fares yet. Booking too late is almost always expensive. Research suggests booking international flights maybe 2 to 6 months out, and domestic 1 to 3 months out often hits this window, but it varies greatly. Consider the rules. Understand the restrictions of cheaper fares. If you might need to change your plans, paying a bit more for a slightly more flexible fare class might save you money in the long run compared to change fees or forfeiting a non-refundable ticket. One-way versus round trip. If you need a one-way international flight, always check the price of a round trip, even if you don't intend to use the return leg, sometimes called a throwaway ticket. It can counterintuitively be much cheaper. Be cautious though, airlines officially frown upon this, and if you skip the outbound leg of a round trip, they will almost certainly cancel the return leg. Hidden city skip lagging. This involves booking a flight with a connection, e.g., A to C via B, where your actual destination is the connection city B, and simply getting off there, abandoning the final leg, B to C. This sometimes works because flights through a hub B can be cheaper than flights to the hub B. However, this is risky. You can't check baggage. It'll go to the final destination C. It only works for one-way journeys, and airlines actively try to detect and penalize this practice, potentially canceling frequent flyer accounts or even banning passengers. Use extreme caution. The world of airline pricing is a dizzying dance of data analysis, predictive modeling, and strategic maneuvering designed to extract the most revenue possible from every seat. It's driven by algorithms constantly learning and adapting. While it might seem chaotic or unfair from the outside, there is a logic to it, a logic based on understanding different travelers' needs, flexibility, and willingness to pay. So, the next time you book a flight and see those fluctuating prices, remember the complex system operating behind the scenes. It's not just about getting you from A to B, it's about a delicate, high-tech balancing act trying to figure out exactly who you are and what price you might be willing to pay for that journey. It's a fascinating, ever-evolving puzzle that directly impacts millions of travelers every single day.